He was only 5 minutes late when his entire life changed forever. Daniel Carter stood frozen at the bus stop, tie crooked, resume folded neatly in his trembling hand, watching the doors of the bus close as it pulled away. Inside his chest, panic and hope collided. This interview was his last chance, the final thread holding together his dream of giving his daughter a better life. And now it was slipping away. But behind him, someone whispered in a shaking voice, "Son, please don't leave me." Daniel turned around. An elderly woman had collapsed on the sidewalk, grocery bags spilled open, apples rolling into the street. Her hands trembled as she tried to stand, failing again and again. People walked past her, eyes forward, pretending not to notice. Daniel looked at his watch. If he stayed, he would miss the interview. If he left, he would live with it forever. He knelt down. "I'm here," he said softly, placing his resume in his pocket like it no longer mattered. "You're not alone." The woman's breathing was shallow, her face pale. Daniel flagged down help, sat with her, covered her with his jacket, and spoke gently, like he did every night with his daughter when she had nightmares. When the ambulance finally arrived, he rode with her, holding her hand as she whispered thank you through tears. By the time everything was settled, the interview was long over. Daniel walked home under a gray sky, heart heavy. His phone buzzed with a voicemail notification from the company. Unheard, unanswered. He didn't listen. He already knew what it would say. That night, he sat on the edge of his daughter Lily's bed, brushing hair from her forehead as she slept. She was 7 years old, smart beyond her years, and the reason he never gave up, even when life seemed determined to crush him. "Daddy tried," he whispered. He didn't know that somewhere across the city, the woman he had helped lay awake in a private hospital room, staring at the ceiling, asking one single question over and over again. Who was that man? Who chose me over everything? The next morning, Daniel received a call that made his heart stop. "Mr. Carter," a calm, authoritative voice said, "this is Margaret Whitmore. I believe we owe you a conversation." Daniel almost dropped the phone. Margaret Whitmore was the CEO, the founder, the woman whose name was etched into the glass walls of the building he was supposed to interview in, the same woman whose company had rejected hundreds of candidates without hesitation. I'm sorry I missed the interview," Daniel said quietly. "There was an emergency." "I know." Margaret replied, "I was the emergency." Silence swallowed the line. She asked him to come in that afternoon, not for an interview, she said, but for tea. When Daniel arrived, nervous and unsure, Margaret was already waiting. She looked nothing like the fragile woman from the sidewalk. Her posture was strong, her eyes sharp, her presence commanding. But when she looked at Daniel, something softened. "I've interviewed thousands of people," she said. "They all tell me what they would do for this company. Yesterday, you showed me who you are without knowing who I was." She leaned forward. "You missed the most important interview of your life," she continued, "and passed the only one that truly mattered." Daniel's eyes filled with tears as she slid a folder across the table. Inside was a contract, signed. "You're hired," Margaret said, "effective immediately." Daniel tried to speak, but no words came. His hands shook as he covered his face, overwhelmed. For the first time in years, someone had seen him, not as a struggling single dad, not as a desperate applicant, but as a good man. Margaret stood and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Never teach your daughter that success comes before humanity," she said softly, "because yesterday you reminded me why I built this company in the first place." Months later, Daniel walked into the office every morning with confidence. Lily attended a better school. Their fridge was full. Their nights were peaceful. And every so often, Daniel would see Margaret watching him from her office window, smiling, not as a boss, but as someone who had witnessed quiet greatness when no one else was looking. Because sometimes, the interview you miss is the one that hires you for life. Doing the right thing may cost you something in the moment, but it can give you everything in the end.